Well, Labor were a small target in the campaign, weren't they? But now they're in power, they are no small target. A First Nations foreign policy, renewable energy transition plans even faster and harder than we knew about, a new Assistant Minister for the Republic, and perhaps the most consequential of all, this proposed Indigenous Voice to the Parliament. Joining me now from Melbourne, the former Executive Director of the IPA, John Roskam. John, I know you've campaigned long and hard about freedom of speech and in Australia where we're not defined by identity politics, but this is identity politics writ large, this Indigenous voice. And of course, once it's in the Constitution, there'll be no turning back.
Well, you're exactly right, Peter. It is permanently going to divide Australians according to their skin colour, according to their race, their background. And for someone like me, that is an absolutely reversal of the commitment of the 1960 referendum that enshrined racial equality effectively in the Constitution. And what concerns me about this is there's so little debate about it. People are intimidated, people are threatened. The idea that you can't now speak in favour of racial equality, the idea that you can't speak in favour of the idea that we shouldn't be defined by our skin colour, I think is a very sad statement of the condition that Australia is in right now.
We're about the same age, right? So you grow up knowing the story of the white Australia
early
policy.
40s.
You know the story, early 40s. You know how hard it was for some early migrants to get a foothold in this country. We are now a very different nation than we were when we were perhaps at school. But I still have Martin Luther King ringing in my ear that we should never divide each other by the colour of our skin, that it's the content of character that matter. It's why I oppose quotas for women in the parliament or in the boardroom or anywhere else. It's all about merit. It's egalitarian merit. So how on earth are we in the situation now where we are seeking to divide Australians and effectively give Aboriginal Australians two bites at legislation when we've already got, and I think it's fantastic, a record 10 Indigenous Australians in the one voice that matters, and that's our parliament?
Because we've taken our equalities and our freedoms and our egalitarianism for granted, Peter. And there's something else special and unique about Australia that is relevant to the voice. Australia has amongst the highest proportion of foreign-born citizens in any developed country. We are a migrant nation. Now, we are built. Our success is based on the idea that when you come to Australia, you are equal like everyone else. When my parents came to Australia from Europe after the Second World War, they learned English, they got a job, and they made a commitment to Australia, and they were going to be equal whether they were with someone who was here for 60,000 years, counting back the generations, or whether they were like them and had just arrived off the boat. Australia, with its very high immigration program, has to continue to support the idea that it doesn't matter how long you've been here. If you commit to the country, you have the same legal status, you have the same political status, and we will all commit to be part of a single community. What the voice does, what the idea of dividing Australians by their race does, it demolishes, for me, what is a very successful multi-ethnic community. And that's something that I don't think we're spending enough time talking about.